Across Africa, leadership has often been a double-edged sword. Some leaders bring hope, but many others leave behind trails of corruption, oppression, and broken promises. While some presidents cling to power through fear, others lose public trust by failing to deliver on change. In this video, we're counting down the top 10 most hated presidents in Africa, leaders who are currently in power and facing growing resentment from their people. Stay tuned until the end, because the number one spot will shock you. 10. Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, Egypt. Since seizing power in 2014, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi has ruled Egypt with an iron fist. Once seen as a figure who could bring stability, he is now accused of crushing democracy. His government has jailed thousands of political opponents, silenced independent media, and heavily restricted freedoms.
I have friends who were killed in Egypt. I have friends who are still in prison still today in Egypt. Innocent, bright, young, amazing people who were killed, shot dead, simply because they were protesting in the streets, asking for justice.
Many Egyptians complain about economic hardship, rising prices, and unemployment, blaming his leadership for their struggles. Abroad, he presents himself as a reformer, but at home, many see him as a dictator who puts fear above freedom. 9. Isaias Afwerki, Eritrea. Often compared to North Korea, Eritrea under Isaias Afwerki is one of the most closed-off nations in the world. Since taking power in 1993, he has never allowed free elections, free press, or real opposition. Eritreans are forced into indefinite military service, a policy so harsh that thousands risk their lives fleeing the country every year. Families are torn apart, and critics are either jailed or disappear without a trace. To many, Afwerki represents a lifetime sentence of suffering with no escape. 8. Paul Biya, Cameroon. Paul Biya has ruled Cameroon since 1982, over 4 decades in power. His long rule has been marked by corruption, rigged elections, and neglect of the English-speaking minority regions. The conflict between the government and separatists has plunged parts of Cameroon into violence, while Biya remains distant, often spending long stretches of time abroad. Many citizens feel abandoned, calling his leadership outdated, disconnected, and repressive. 7. Yoweri Museveni, Uganda. When Yoweri Museveni took power in 1986, he was celebrated as a liberator. But decades later, he has turned into the very kind of ruler he once fought against. Museveni has repeatedly changed the constitution to extend his rule.
Would have helped so many Ugandans. It would have helped so many children who are suffering. It would have helped women who are dying because there's no medicine.
And elections are often marred by accusations of fraud. Opposition figures like Bobi Wine have faced harassment, arrests, and brutal crackdowns. For many Ugandans, Museveni's endless grip on power has turned hope into resentment. 6. Teodoro Obiang Nguema Mbasogo, Equatorial Guinea. The world's longest-serving president, Teodoro Obiang has ruled Equatorial Guinea since 1979. Despite the nation's oil wealth, the majority of citizens live in poverty, while his family enjoys lavish lifestyles abroad. Obiang's government is accused of widespread corruption, human rights violations, and silencing critics. For over 4 decades, promises of reform have never materialized, and the country remains trapped in a cycle of repression and inequality. 5. Faure Gnassingbé, Togo.
He's transitioned from president to president of the Council of Ministers, a position that gives him chief executive powers and allows Parliament to re-elect him to unlimited 6-year terms.
Faure Gnassingbé inherited power from his father in 2005, continuing a family dynasty that has ruled Togo for decades. His government has been accused of rigging elections, changing the constitution to stay in power, and cracking down on protests. To many Togolese citizens, Faure represents political stagnation, a leader more focused on holding power than improving lives. With limited opportunities and suppressed freedoms, public frustration continues to grow. 4. Emerson Mnangagwa, Zimbabwe. Nicknamed the Crocodile, Mnangagwa took over after Robert Mugabe's fall in 2017. Many Zimbabweans hoped for change, but instead they got more of the same. The economy remains in crisis, with inflation skyrocketing and unemployment widespread. Elections are marred by accusations of rigging, and critics face intimidation and violence. For many citizens, Mnangagwa is simply Mugabe 2.0. Another strongman clinging to power while ordinary people suffer. 3. Mohamed Deby, Chad. In 2021, Mohamed Deby took over Chad's presidency after his father's death. Instead of guiding the country toward democracy, he extended military rule, postponing elections and consolidating power. Opposition voices have been silenced, protests brutally crushed, and hopes for democratic transition shattered. Many Chadians believe Deby is simply continuing his father's legacy of military dominance, leaving them trapped under yet another strongman. 2. Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, Sudan. After a military coup in 2021, al-Burhan became Sudan's de facto leader. But instead of supporting democratic reforms, he has been accused of undermining them. Sudanese citizens have faced violent crackdowns during protests demanding civilian rule. Dozens have been killed, hundreds injured, and the dream of democracy has once again been delayed. To many, al-Burhan is the face of Sudan's broken promise of freedom. 1. Salva Kiir Mayardit, South Sudan. When South Sudan gained independence in 2011, there was immense hope for peace and prosperity. But under Salva Kiir's leadership, the country has descended into chaos. Civil war, ethnic violence, corruption, and humanitarian disasters have defined his rule. Millions have been displaced, famine threatens communities, and peace remains out of reach. Instead of uniting his nation, Kiir has been blamed for dividing it further. For many South Sudanese, he is not the father of their nation, but the source of their suffering. And there you have it, the top 10 most hated presidents in Africa. From dictators clinging to power to leaders who crush democratic hopes, these figures serve as reminders of how leadership can fail a nation. But now we want to hear from you. Which of these leaders do you think deserves the #1 spot? Did we miss anyone who should have made this list? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more insightful breakdowns like this.